Okay. This is the 13th episode of the Pi podcast, and this is the first one we're recording in person. And I'm not rich enough to buy all of the gear, so we only have one mic. So we'll be passing it around. But the only benefit is that, unlike other podcasts, no one will be talking over the other person. And if they are, the listener can't hear. Yeah, the mic probably didn't catch that. Yeah, it's a dynamic mic. Say something. See, it didn't. Yeah. Okay. So kind of backwards people here. But yeah. Okay. Relax. Okay. One of you, one of you, explain what we're talking about.
So right now I was just thinking. I was just watching a movie the other day. And it got me thinking about how, in real life, if any person came up to us and like try to describe an otherworldly concept, like they tried to tell us that they had access to another realm, or like something that seems like supernatural, something that doesn't go with like our understanding of science or anything. If anyone came up to us and told us something that like was um out of this world, we wouldn't believe them. We would like think that they're just full of bullshit. So in that sense, do you think it's ever possible that someone had some type of like supernatural experience or something like that could have shaken the world of like science and like physics, but just no one ever believed them, and we lost that opportunity? Like maybe some person had this genetic um, like mutation and just could see another um, like element, or see magnetic, like anything, like another type of sense that like humans, yeah, exactly, like a waste of like progress, I guess.
Um, there's almost 8 billion people on the world, and I bet there are people in weird places who have different type of abilities, or everyone's unique. So that stuff, and they probably know something the other people don't. So I bet there is a lot of information out there that none of us know of. Like, it's not mainstream, and it'll never become mainstream, because in our world you need to be an expert to comment on something and have it taken seriously or something.
But this just got me thinking, like you guys have said, that some might be something unknown that we don't know about. Do I look in the camera? Do I look at you? I don't know. But like, it's really weird. Like, I used to think before, how did people like map stuff out? Like, obviously you go explore, like it's pretty simple, but don't you think there's like certain areas of the world or certain like small places that we just don't know about? Like, how do we know for sure if like, what if there's like some small island where like some fucked up stuff happens and you just don't know about it?
As for not knowing about particular places, we've been to space and we've taken pictures of the Earth from like a lot of places, and then we've traveled a lot. So it's not like, before, when they didn't know America was there, the map just didn't have a whole continent. But I don't think that stuff's kind of possible now, because we get like an outside view of the Earth.
Bro, so I just pulled up this quote. It's by this guy named Stephen Jay Gould, and he said that I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. So that's the whole thing, the whole concept of like there's so much potential loss, and then like these.
One of the people with the highest IQs was a farmer. I don't remember the name, but he has it's stupidly high, and he says some messed up shit, and people don't accept it, but he, like, scientifically proven, like, he has the highest IQ, higher than Einstein, higher than all of these people. I think he is alive. And you know what's funny is that like brings you to the point where when does there's a very fine line between being a genius and intelligent or being crazy. Because if you go back 400 years and you explain people the science we know right now and the progress we've made right now, they'll think they'll be delusional. If you go back to when people thought the world is flat, be like, we went to space, we've traveled around the world, everything, they'll think you're stupid.
So I mean, yeah, exactly. That's along the lines of what I was saying. And even like these libraries of like Alexandria and like these like they've been burnt down, and like so many authors, some of their best works have been like lost to civilization now because they got destroyed or they were just never published. And like that whole like loss of potential is basically, I was thinking along those lines. Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking. So Zubair also said like Atlantis also drowned, and I mean I was thinking about this whole concept of like loss of potential and like people just not believing people or not having enough faith in them, or maybe even just like some people just like never had the opportunities to like express what they discovered. But what I want to focus on is in the like supernatural light of that. Like so something that's so that could have literally shaken the world of like science. Like imagine someone literally found another universe and they knew about it and they could just never tell anyone else about it because no one ever believed them.
No, okay, if anyone drifts off, you can just go back to it. A lot of times I ignore what most of them say just to go back to what they said.
Yeah, I don't know about the supernatural stuff you're talking about. Like I don't really know. It's fine. That works. It's chilling. But like I was saying, the same thing you're talking about, like wasted talent, or like just natural ability, right? Like I'm sure even in our country and so many other countries, when it comes to like just because we don't have facilities to be able to curb that talent or let it grow, there's so many people who go to waste because of that. I mean, not me, but like generally the. You know what I'm saying? Nah, like those type of people. So like it's not only based on like it can just be based on where you're born or what like your family does, that you don't go into something. Like for example, you were talking about like the supernatural thingy, right? Well, I'm not gonna go into that because like that's not really my thing. What? Say what you said.
Because Rayan is not supernatural. Much. But like going off what Rayan said, like I remember Zubi and Saad, you guys would remember this. We did this like a couple of episodes ago. We were talking about the same thing, like how there might be someone who's like, I don't know what topic it was, I don't remember what episode, but it was like some Elon Musk thing, like should they donate all their money like to provide education and stuff, and what like or just advancement in society. And one reason I think we talked about was with more facilities, like Rayan saying. No, I think it was Yumi Danu. But yeah, so we were saying that why the rich should like help with facilities and stuff, because it won't just like help them like inner peace, it also helps society as a whole, because so much unwasted talent goes to waste. So with more like education facilities, you might like find a farmer, high IQ, who can like do shit. So just remember that. And about supernatural, yeah, like one more thing, sorry Zubi, but like recent at Saad's house or something, or Danyal's house, we were looking at this one video, like 4D and like for the fourth dimension explained. So that's something humans can't really perceive. So yeah, Saad saying we can't perceive the third dimension. So like I was just thinking, like, do you think there's like limits to human understanding? Like we can't see certain colors, but do you think there's something that's like blocking in our head that we can't like understand certain concepts and only higher beings could?
I think biologically there are so many limitations to humans. Like there's some things that we actually can't perceive and like understand. Like there's specific sound frequencies we don't understand, and probably what if we don't have the equipment to even detect those frequencies yet, and all of that stuff, different colors, there's some colors we don't see. There are limitations to humans that way. And like also I just wanted to talk about the dimension thing. This is the most stupidest thing, but once we had a conversation with our physics teacher, but you know how our shadow is 2D, but we're 3-dimensional. Okay? And light, like shadows are produced because we cover like the sunlight or any type of light. So our shadow is slower than us, but it's like the time difference is so minute that you really don't see the delay. What if we're a shadow of our 4D selves, and whatever we do is already done by our 4D self, and the 4D self is a shadow of the 5D self, and so we don't really make any decisions or anything. We're just shadows, and we think we have our own lives. And yeah, I think about that a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, no, I mean that's like that's one of those things that you can just go on and on about thinking about. But I mean, see, imagine if someone is able to prove that, and he tried to like tell the person sitting next to them, and they wouldn't believe them. Like that's okay. For me, the reason I was thinking about this is that most of these fantasy novels we read, like Narnia, like any like young adult fiction novels, kind of they're grounded on the basis that like this one young teen protagonist has this like revelation, and then through that revelation he's able to like enter this entire like
Harry Potter
realm of like different stuff that like no one has seen before. So in the same sense, like that happens in fiction, but in reality, if someone had that, it wouldn't go like that. Like no one would believe them, and they'd probably be really lonely. Like if I today went to Ryan, Nabil, Zubair, and I told you guys I have the ability to enter people's dreams, and what I do is I'm able at night I go and I added a lot of detail to this story, and I really explained it in lots of depth. And I mean, you guys would probably be entertained while I was telling you, and you'd like it, but then you'd be like, haha, cool story, bro. Like, like you, no one would believe me. No one would believe anyone who, and imagine if because of that not being believed in, like that cynicism and imagine a person has this ability, but because they know that no one will ever believe them, they never even try to tell anyone.
It's like, for example, like, I feel like a lot of stuff, like, okay, wait, I think maybe I'm gonna go a bit off topic, but like, it's related. But it's like, you know how if Elon Musk is to go and say something, right, even if it's the dumbest thing on the planet, people will still give him some sort of credibility for it because he's done some work before to show that he can do this type of shit, right? Like, he'll go say some stupid shit about Mars, or some, like, not Mars, but he'll go say some extremely stupid shit about how, like, he's gonna make like travel to Mars like anyone can go, like normal people can go, right, in the next 4 years. He says some stupid shit like that, right? People won't believe him, but people will still not be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. But if like, Zubair, if not Zubair, but like if like, let's say anyone from our school, if fucking a teacher from our school comes and says that, right, we just not give them that thing because they've never done anything to show, like, so it's like the whole idea of like, first to be able to like, you might have a crazy idea, you know what I mean? You might have a crazy idea, you might have like a crazy thing, and you've planned it all out, but because you've never done anything else to prove that your idea can actually work, people won't take you seriously.
I thought about this very recently, and you're basically commenting if you're an expert at something, or if you've done something and you have basically some level, you show that you're competent in a particular field. You could probably comment on a lot of things that aren't true and people would still believe it. Now, imagine if that way historians can change our perception of the past. What if pyramids were built as prisons, and those whatever that thing is, they were used from other purposes. The people who were mummified weren't kings and all. Because historians have, I'm not saying that that's not true, but yeah, it's historians, because they're experts in that field. They could probably comment about a lot of old things and tell us what they were used for, how people use them, how the old societies and cultures were like, and we'd accept that, and that would be our view of the past. Yeah, they can very easily change what the past actually was. And for example, if thousands of years from now people find this mic, they could, yeah, they might think it's like a tool for, let's say, pleasure or something. Fine, okay? I'm not gonna say the exact word you said, but people then, if proper like historians are saying it, they would believe it. They wouldn't know what like these things are actually used. Like you can like that way historians can really fuck up our perception of what the past was like and make shit up as well.
Yeah. So credibility is, I think, what we're coming like around to. We're talking about how a lot of our knowledge and stuff that we as a society believe in, it comes down to just faith in like what others are telling us.
But it goes with that like thing, like, sorry to cut you off, but it goes with that like thing, like, you know how people a lot of times they say if you act like you're supposed to be somewhere, like you just act like you're supposed to be somewhere, like, you know, you're supposed to be doing this thing, people aren't gonna question you. It's like that. Like historians, their job and their whole thing is to like, you know, do that. So some guy could like mess around, go and do whatever. Like, bro, I don't know if you guys seen this video of Boris Johnson talking about how he makes a bus in his spare time. Have you seen that? Like he was talking. There was this interview in which he was talking about how there's this video of Boris Johnson in an interview. Like someone asked him, "What do you do in your spare time?" Fine, and he said, "I make buses and I put people in them and this and that." Okay, everyone thinks he's an idiot, but maybe like, you know, Pichen with his friends, he made some like group with his friends. His friends told him, "Bro, do this shit up on like, I can say that, right? Yeah, do this BS on like, you know, this live show, right?" But we just think he's an idiot because that's what we see. In reality, he could just be fucking around with his friends. Like, you know what I mean? It's so weird. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Great analysis.
Sorry, I went really off topic.
Yeah. But credibility is like, it comes back to this thing. So with history, the reason we agree on these things is because many different people come to the same conclusion after looking at evidence multiple times. And it's not only as if, like, studying history, we know that there is historiography, which is like the study of history in which people do question other people's opinions. And it's not like someone says something and it's just accepted. Obviously, there's like there's revisionist history, like post-revisionist, like there's all these different types of schools of thoughts in which, but that's not often like in terms of like facts. People don't really question the facts because they find ways to like evidence it. But they like different historians have ways of taking the facts and presenting it in a different way. So like using the same, it's not like people will question each other's evidence. I mean, at the highest level of like historians, they don't question each other's evidence, but they more like question. They all have the same pieces, but they use the pieces in different ways to complete the puzzle. And so one more thing I just wanted to add is that you're talking about how credibility is literally just like just faith, right? So I mean, so many analysts on anything, like Waqar Zaka makes like millions of rupees based off like what? Because he's built an audience. Twitter is basically that. It's a speaker to the world. So it just depends on like how many people you have listening. That is your credibility.
Yeah, and also like to me, like same topic, but if you apply it on other things as well. We were talking about this once, not us, like me or someone else. We're talking about, you know how they find dinosaur bones and then they make the structure and all of that. Yeah. What if they're missing few pieces, or what if they've assembled it in a way that actually wasn't the way it was?
How do they know what the dinosaur sounds like?
Yeah, they don't know what dinosaurs sound like. They don't
You know, most of like in dinosaurs, like most of the times that like we don't have no idea like what their skin is. Like we only have their bones. So they could not have scales, but like they could have feathers, but that's just what we think. Like
no. So exactly that. Like I think we're kind of taking away credit from a lot of the work these guys do, like experts in the actual thing, because I think you can actually take like DNA extracts and see what particular features would be like. But like, what if in the bones they find there are a few missing pieces that could change the structure completely? What if what if two dinosaurs die on the same site and yeah, their bones get mixed up and stuff like that? And just because even for the DNA part, I was reading this thing where over time your DNA, like when you die and you're decomposing, of course your DNA doesn't stay like that forever. Then though you could dig up some stuff like and find human DNA and stuff like that, but it breaks into fragments slowly, and over time there are more and more fragments, so you have to basically build a puzzle together to get the entire strand. Even in that, what if you're missing pieces? And things like, what if the dinosaur DNA they get is so fragmented they can't get accurate information? Then all of this is just them trying to fix something and put something together and just taking a leap of faith and be like, okay, this is the way it was.
What if a T-Rex actually looked like a kangaroo?
So I mean, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, all scientific theories are theories. They're conjecture, but it's just about like which conjecture is the most educated and has the most basis. And that's why it's important for science. It's important for us to remember that science is a theory, because that's how you progress it. Like if you challenge the norms of like, it's not like you say, oh, the earth is flat and you like deny science altogether. But if you question different things, like for example, there's evidence that a perpetual motion machine can never be invented, and that would be very beneficial to society. But people will continue to like hypothesize different ways to create a potential motion, what's called a perpetual motion machine, and like who knows, what if one day they figure out a way. So it's important for you to question the science to get to a different point. And then going back to something that Zubair and Nabil were talking about, is that we can perceive things because we're biologically limited, and maybe only a higher being could. But do you think our descendants, like many generations from now, will evolve to a point where they're able to perceive things that we can't? Like, you know,
100%.
right before this, we were talking about how the Greeks didn't have a word for blue, because blue is so limited in nature. And they, in the Odyssey, to describe the color of the sea as like a wine red, like, and it's only after you continue to make a word for something you're able to perceive it. So in the same sense, maybe like many generations afterwards, our descendants will have these mutations that cause them to perceive magnetic waves throughout the air, or maybe they can
Magnet.
or maybe even just like the reason I was saying that is because I recently saw this study on how one of the reasons why birds may be able to you know how birds migrate and they always know where to go. One of the recent hypotheses is that because there's a magnetic layer in their eyes, so they're able to follow the Earth's birds are magnets.
Yeah, pigeons are robots. But basically, like, I guess to sum what everyone's saying, Saad, you were saying like when people question stuff, like, you know, there might be things that we don't know about, like supernatural, but I feel like there's always, it's like good to be a bit cynical, because like you said, there's a fine line between like being crazy and like being actually smart and like breakthrough type. So I think, like, you know, science as we know it right now, like Saad said, it's all like constructs that we've made like through our understanding. So obviously understanding will always change. So it's good to question it, but as long as we have like, you know, proof and stuff. And maybe in the future we'll have like some devices where we can see stuff, we can see birds being magnets and stuff. So I don't think we'll be able to perceive things differently, like just how we are right now, like biologically. I think it'll be more or less the same. but like with technology, it keeps on advancing. So maybe we'll see magnets. And one more thing that you said, sorry, forgetting this. I'll come back to it.
Yeah, also, I don't think like physical restrictions are there, and that though we've talked about, but also restrictions in communicating. So there was this philosopher, I forgot his name, but he basically wrote about communication and making people understand what you're saying. And his way was, you need to create an image, you need to create a picture. And the reason why most of the times people don't come to an understanding is because each individual pictures something different. What are you doing, Ryan? Acha. So that no one can see exactly what you're thinking or exactly what you're picturing or exactly what you're trying to say, but like that itself acts as a restriction, and that itself could possibly prevent us from making particular progress. What if there's a dead scientist who was trying to explain particular concepts but he couldn't explain it well enough? What if someone is smart enough and has the expertise but they're just not very good at communicating, or they're not good at expressing their thoughts? That itself acts as a limitation for exchanging knowledge, trying to explain particular things and all of that stuff. So there are physical restrictions, and there's also the restrictions in communication.
Yeah, so what you said, it just reminded me, it's kind of off topic, about that artist like Van Gogh. Like he was famous after he died, so like, you know, he never got to see his work and art being appreciated. So like, yeah, what if there's a scientist, what if there are people out there, they've had research, but they won't understand how groundbreaking their stuff was until like later on. That's just sad to think about, but yeah, you never know. Just reminded me of that.
Yeah, okay, wait. So, going back to what Saad was saying about, like, you know, if our descendants will see, like, everything in a really different way. Like, you know, so thinking of that, even I sometimes I'll just sit, like, if I'm doing anything, I'll just randomly start thinking about, like, how is a picture even possible? Like, you know, if you go deep into thinking about that, like, you'll think, like, how the fuck is that even possible? Like, what did people do to make that, right? Abe, no, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's not about me being the dumbest. It's just about, like, you know, there's so much, like, you get what I mean? It's really complex, right? But like at one point, there are people who didn't think that ever be possible. They didn't even think about, like, it's such a norm to us that if a phone or anything doesn't have a camera, we're like, what the fuck is that, right? So like, let me continue. Let me finish what I'm saying. So like, it's like, you know, like, so we didn't even, like, at that time, like, they're probably like our ascendants. Our ancestors. Yeah, exactly. Our ascendants, our ancestors. We probably have ancestors who never even thought of what a picture is. Like, you know, they had no clue what that be, and now it's a norm to us. So 100%, I think, like, maybe like my descendants will see something at some point, which like I've never even thought of. Like, you know, yeah. I couldn't even like think of, like, you know, that being a thing. Yeah.
Just one comment. You know how like the first movie or that stuff was of a train, and the first time people saw that, people thought like it was gonna hit them. So yeah, you were there, no? Huh? Yeah. How old were you? 2? 1? What?
Go on.
No, but no, but no. And the thing is that there's just too many. There are too many restrictions to efficiently interpret or exchange information. And also what Nabil said about Van Gogh, he brought him up. It's apparently pronounced like Van Gogh or something, but no, it's not that. It's, you know how his paintings, the wind he makes it a particular kind. Like he makes the air. Like we usually make the sky or paint anything, but like what was that famous, the Starry Night? Yeah, you see how like the wind patterns are made. He used to say something like how he views the wind that way. What if he could actually see patterns of wind? And he tried to show that through our Um, he cut his hair. But even Picasso did that, didn't he? What's up with?
Maybe they did that because like
Yeah, but what all these guys are saying, like what Zubair just said right now, how we perceive things differently. That's why, like, if you think about it, books, why they're so like popular. I mean, like it's a way of like stories and stuff, but why they're people prefer them over movies? It's because you perceive it, like you picture it and visualize it yourself. Like you read one sentence, like I could read a sentence and visualize it differently than all three of them. Like, so that's really interesting. Like, it's your yeah, even differently than the author. That's what Saad's saying. So it's like you use your own imagination. We all perceive things differently. That's why it's like your own personal connection to that book, I guess.
Just a random question. Do you prefer movies or books? I personally like books because each individual gets the freedom to picture characters, to imagine tones, and all of that stuff. Like, I personally like books more because I'm a very slow reader. I read a page and then I try to picture what the scene was like and actually picture things in my mind. And I like that over movies where they just give you characters and tones already. So you're missing out a lot on that freedom, that creative freedom you have of like imagining these kind of things.
I mean, like, obviously you can't deny the enjoyment of like reading a good book, but movies are like easier. Like, you can just it's just there in your face. Some are really nice, made well. But I guess for me, it's like a middle ground. Like, I guess video games, like story playing ones. Like, I like those the best because you have like the best of both things. You can like still customize it, but at the same time, it's like still ready made for you. You don't have to do that much like effort. I mean, even reading a book isn't that much effort, but I guess like that's why I'm more into like story based games rather than like COD or like random shooting games. I don't know. I just never saw the point to those.
I prefer films just because they're more immersive. So the but at the same time, if I had a choice between if I could only ever read books or watch movies, I would choose books because there's so much. It's so much easier to make a book, meaning that there's so much more books out there than movies, and there's just so much more information and there's so much more of the medium in books. But yeah, because they've been there for longer. But if I had to choose between like which one I would rather like enjoy watching, I like movies more because they're more immersive, and like you said, video games, same thing. I would also actually prefer like if I would continue with this trend, I would probably prefer like VR, like just experiencing a story through VR or anything like that.
Yeah, again, I like movies more. I read less. I don't really read that much. Yeah, shut up. But like, I read less. But like, there's like some books which like it's like I really like the fact that they're books and I don't want them to be movies. But at the same time, with movies, it's like kind of that instant gratification thing. You get it then, 1 ghanta, 2 hours maybe. You see it, you know the whole thing, and then you can talk about it. And like but like one thing I really like is like when Nabil mentioned that games thingy. If not even games, but like stuff like Bandersnatch. Do you remember Netflix made that thing on Bandersnatch? Like I think that's a really cool concept where it's like Black America Bandersnatch thingy, where like it's a movie and they filmed it, but the thing is obviously that's gonna be the least available thing because it takes so long to make. But like you still have control over like what you want to do. I feel like that's really nice. But overall, yeah, I like movies more than books as well.
Okay, so to circle around back to what I was saying, in regards to, okay, so at the end of the day, something that is supernatural is basically just something that we can't understand, right? So in the same vein, so many things that we've established that our descendants will probably be able to perceive things and understand scientific concepts because of like progress in communication so much better than we will. They'll have a much better grasp on science and everything. They'll just have more access to information. So what if something right now that happens to someone that in today's understanding is supernatural would actually be something that just we don't understand the science to right now. And obviously, this is a very like generic type of concept that like people visit a lot in science fiction. But like, you know how in Interstellar, at the start of the movie, there's like the girl is visited by like a ghost, but then later she realizes that that's her father trying to communicate to her via a black hole. And what I wanted to add to this is that, so the main seed that started this conversation was, imagine you have something you want to convey to someone else and you just don't have the words or ability to prove it. So that reminded me of our prophets, like in a religious sense. Our prophets had this crazy task. I mean, different prophets had different miracles to prove it, right? But Hazrat Muhammad, one of his main things is that he didn't really have as many miracles, right? He wasn't able to he wasn't given these type of like magic type miracles, because his miracle was the Quran, right? Like the ability to just at the end of the day, knowledge is something that like knowledge, faith is something that you just have to have faith in. Like, so the same way, what I was talking about was that these prophets, when they had to go and preach to other people, the way that they were able to convince like an entire society in something that the only proof they had was like written word is really beautiful. And also the fact that like, so one of the main reasons why I really romanticized the relationship between Hazrat Muhammad and Hazrat Khatija is because she had blind faith in what he said. It didn't matter like how crazy what he said sounded. She believed him and she comforted him and she helped him like go on with the next thing that like and obviously we believe in the finality of prophethood. But if that wasn't a concept and someone tried to be a prophet right now or said I have revelations from God, they would be deemed as schizophrenic. Like, simple as that. So just the whole idea of just like people having different ideas and trying to struggle to express them to other people, it's very interesting to me.
I think we've come to the end of the podcast. Okay. So what? Yeah. So this was our first in-person recorded podcast, and hopefully in the future I can get enough gear so that everyone has their individual mic. And I actually have a few things that I need to buy for that. But other than that, I think we had a other than that, I think this was an interesting conversation, and what helped was the fact that we recorded in person. Because one thing Saad's been saying for a while is that we should record in person because the conversations feel more natural and there's more flow to it. And I think that is true. And I think all of us saw it here. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that Nabil's afraid because he's half naked. But the thing is that when we do it online, there's talking over, there's a lot of like problems that we face. But in this, it's also the fact that we can actually look at each other like so yeah, I think it was good. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and you can go on Anchor and find all the other sites. And you can watch this podcast on YouTube, and we recorded it in person mainly for YouTube as well. You can follow us on Instagram, and like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.